I always fundamentally start with what is the story we're trying to tell, who are we trying to tell it to, and then how are they going to receive that content.
Everybody, welcome back. Video Production Daily, my favorite passion project. I am joined again by Casey Schendel. Really excited to dive deep today on pre-production and what his pre-production process looks like. I'm going to shut my mouth because people have been listening to me for over 40 episodes and it's time to hear from an expert. Casey, so great to have you on the show again. What do you know? I'm wearing the same shirt as I was last week. You're wearing the same shirt as you were last week. Now, here we are continuing our recording session today, and now we're talking about pre-production. So, Casey, I just want to kind of dive in and here, I know that pre-production is a hard thing to keep consistent, and that's okay, right? Like, I would love to hear about projects you've worked on when pre-production really worked well, things that you wish that you had considered on projects in pre-production. We're just really interested to hear. You know, Casey creates incredible stuff. What does your pre-production process look like?
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Luke. I appreciate it. This is my life uniform now, since all the videos will have this attire.
Yeah, that's right. Like a cartoon character.
So yeah, I mean, my pre-production process varies based on the project types. But I would say typically I always fundamentally start with what is the story we're trying to tell, who are we trying to tell it to, and then how are they going to receive that content. Especially how are they going to receive that content? What's the distribution plan, the distribution method? And that really determines, I would say, how much attention we'll have with the audience, and then how to structure the story, the narrative, the flow of information. So I typically start there with pre-production to really fundamentally understand what the goal of the project is.
And how are you getting that information? Are you doing stakeholder interviews, or do you have like a project brief that you disseminate to people? How do you get that intel?
Yeah, it's always stakeholder interviews. Everyone's different. You know, if you are going to do, say, a hero piece to accommodate an on-stage launch event, or you're going to do multiple 15-second ads that are going to play on Instagram, you want to do a series of promotional videos to feature on a new portion of a landing page that's dedicated to, an integrated marketing program. But I always want to really discover how this content is going to be used, where it's going to be used, and really understand the audience that will be seeing this, whether organically or through paid promotion, sponsorship.
Casey, that's really interesting that you start with this information gathering phase. I think a lot of us, we want that good intel. How do you turn that good intel into good decisions? Like, what are the decisions that you know you're going to have to make? And, you want to find out about the publishing platform, whether or not there's going to be paid support behind it, all of these things in the beginning. I know that that's a complicated question because it's really all of the decisions you make in production, but maybe you could just give us a high-level overview of how you're going to approach projects differently based on these questions you're asking in pre-production.
Yeah, so, the whole information gathering gauge is number one, to figure out what story you're going to tell, how you're going to tell it. Sometimes maybe it's not even a story. And that's okay. And then the second phase is to understand, what is the budget requirements for this project? Does an existing budget exist that you need to work within? Do you need to kind of create a budget based on some concepts and ideas that are shared with stakeholders and like given the thumbs up? It's kind of a fluid process in a sense, because it is a thing of what is the right content to do? What is the right story? And then what can the budget support for the project? And kind of overarching too, I look at what is the lifeline, or lifetime of the project. Because oftentimes too in the pre-production process, I like to plan ahead, overshoot, plan additional content, get more content out of an existing budget than originally planned. And really focus on maximizing the amount of content we can create for now and for later. Especially back when I was at Tesla, we would shoot a lot of content. and it would always be leveraged at later points in different videos, web, whatever, all these different integrated marketing pieces.
I love, Casey, that you're focused immediately on getting return on investment for the business. I'm excited next week to go deeper with you on that same topic and talk more about why people are hiring you and what is the value that they're getting out of these engagements. Casey, I'd love to get additional insight from you on your brainstorming process. How are you finding new ideas? How are you filling your head with concepts? And is there anything that you do to get ideas out of other people? It would just be interesting to know how you fill the idea hopper, because sometimes it can run dry, and sometimes you see people producing the same thing over and over and over again. And it's nice to see a body of work like yours that has a lot of diversity. So how do you get to the point where you're bringing new ideas into your production process?
So my pre-production process, it's a mix of fundamentally understanding all the information from the stakeholder, the distribution plan, and then going into the brainstorming session. I get a lot of inspiration from film and television. I'll typically go and create mood boards of kind of fleshing out the visual story, I think, can really enhance the narrative we're trying to tell. So I'll go to stock websites. Shotdeck.com is a new site I love to pull from. And then kind of once I have a kind of whole picture of the story we're going to tell, kind of how we're going to tell it, the true kind of line producer side comes out, and I'll run a budget. What does it take to achieve this piece of content or this series of content, and how to make it all work in your timeline and your budget, and to really meet the goals that the stakeholders have set.
Yeah, that's incredible, Casey. Thanks so much for sharing your pre-production process with us. It's so fascinating to hear, I think there's sometimes hesitation to engage in a pre-production process because people don't know what right looks like, and it looks so different for different people. I think you've given us an incredible vision of what it looks like, from everything from the very critical, what is the impact that this is going to have on the business, to the tactical, how am I going to produce and execute this, to the extremely tactical line producing, what is this going to cost and how do I communicate that back to the business. All terrific and critical parts of pre-production. Casey, I'm wondering if you have any closing thoughts for us. Like, is there a gem in your pre-production process that you would never do a project without? Or, that one lesson that any producer watching this could take away from you on what they could do to improve their pre-production process?
Don't silo yourself off. Bounce ideas off of people, bounce ideas off of stakeholders, and make the pre-production process a collaborative, creative process. Also be cautious to open up too many doors for feedback. But I think it is important to kind of holistically get input and thoughts across different people from different points of views, especially kind of finding those who are going to be the primary audience of your content and getting kind of their opinion of the concept and hearing what they may think to make sure that your ideas are on base, and really work to set yourself up for success.
I love it. Thank you, Casey. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Video Production Daily. I'm excited to continue this conversation with Casey next week as we talk more about what the value and impact on the business looks like. A lot of great tips coming from Casey. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Video Production Daily.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Luke.
Filmmakers and video creators. As you know, production budgets are wildly inconsistent. Sometimes they rise, sometimes they fall, but your ability to bring creativity to a project is always in demand. I want to introduce you to the Masters of Engagement online course. Learn how to clarify creative ideas, engage audiences using conflict, dance, art, character development, relevancy, and unexpectedness in story. Every professional video creator should learn about audience psychology from mastersofengagement.com. I've included a discounted link in the show notes below, and I can't wait to see you in the online course.